Hey guys! So yesterday I got a DM from a wonderful subscriber of mine, and she said, I just wanted to ask any advice you have for marriage, like things you wish you knew early on. I've only been married a year, so I wanted to make better wifely habits for my husband because I do not want to be Mrs. Nag. So I basically responded to her and I was like, this could be an entire video in and of itself. There are so many things that I wish I knew earlier on, or just like things I wish I would have done differently. I'm not into the whole no regrets mindset. I think that we can always be growing. I'm not one to dwell on my mistakes, but I am one to learn from my mistakes, or to strive to learn from my mistakes. So that message just really got me to thinking about all the things I would have done differently my first year of marriage. Not that I had a miserable first year of marriage or anything like that, but there are definitely things that I would have done differently, definitely things that I've done, especially in my first year of marriage, to hurt my husband, and definitely things that I wish I could take back. And Cam and I have been married for almost 5 years now. We're about 4.5 years in, and I would say that we're the happiest we've ever been, and that's because of, I would say, because of me improving myself and focusing on things I can do to make myself happier, to make him happier, to make a better marriage. I think too often, especially young women in relationships, really like to focus on, well, why wouldn't he just do this? Well, why didn't he just do that? Well, if he loved me, then he would just do this. Why didn't he just do that? I don't get it. If he really loved me, he would have done it this way instead. That was like probably the first several years of my marriage, but especially the first year of my marriage. I just didn't understand why he did things the way he did, why he thought things the way he did. There's always a learning curve in marriage, so the first year of marriage is rarely nothing but bliss. But there are definitely some specific things to my marriage that I would have done differently. I'm going to share them today and hope that maybe you learn from them. Hope that we can get a conversation about marriage started in the comment section down below. So I did film a video all about the fact that I got married when I was 18 years old. I turned 18 years old, and then 2 weeks later I got married to my wonderful husband, Cameron. So if you want to know a little bit more about us, I will link the I got married at 18 video and our husband tag. I'll link those down below. Those are super old videos, so don't judge me. But I will link those down below if you want to get to know us a little bit more. And I'm just gonna go ahead and talk about all the mess ups I made during my first year of marriage. So I would say the number one takeaway I took from my first year of marriage, the number one piece of advice I could give that I learned specifically the hard way during my first year of marriage, is to always be the first to apologize. Of course, if he beats you to it, that's great. But there were always times, in fact, every single fight, every single little argument, I wouldn't want to be the first one to apologize. I would be so stubborn in being the first to apologize, and I would be like, wow, you know, I shouldn't have said that, I really should apologize, but I'm not apologizing first. I'm gonna wait till he apologizes. And that is such an unhealthy mindset, because the way that I explain it to my husband is that even if I wasn't wrong in the matter, whatever we were fighting about, even if I was not in the wrong, if we're fighting, I probably hurt his feelings in some way or another. I probably hurt him in some way or another. I probably made him felt unappreciated, unlistened to. When I say be the first to apologize, I'm not saying to say, I'm sorry, I was wrong in what we're fighting about, but you can say, I'm sorry that I made you feel less than, or ignored, or overlooked, or hurt in any way. You can be the first to apologize if you said something a little too snarky, or the way you were communicating. You can apologize for something, because if you're fighting, you probably made him mad in some way or another. And so what happens when you're the first to apologize, especially, I don't know if this is just my husband or what, but when you say you're sorry, it cracks that mad exterior on my husband. So my husband's mad at me, and when I say sorry, that softens the anger on the exterior, and then we can dig deeper and have, you know, a calm discussion about the situation and hopefully get an apology back. But he's a separate human from me, and I can't control separate humans. So if he doesn't apologize, that's something I have to work with, and I can explain to him how much that hurts me and that I would really appreciate a sincere apology. But do not go into conversations with your spouse expecting something specific from them, like an apology or an I was wrong or anything like that. Focus on what you can do for that person, because at the end of the day, that's all you can control, and you're gonna drive yourself a lot crazier trying to expect or trying to provoke a very specific reaction out of a separate human. Another thing I learned in my first year of marriage, and I have a hard time believing this is very specific to just me, but it feels very specific to just me, and that would be to let him sleep. If he's watching this video right now, he's like, finally, she gets it. So during our first year of marriage, we were living overseas, and my husband is in the service, and he did a lot of TDY trips, basically like business trips, where he would leave the house for sometimes weeks, sometimes a couple of days. Once or twice we did a month or longer, and he's told me since that he was always waiting for that like fight. Like we always had a fight before he would leave, and it was usually the night before, and it was usually because he wanted to go to sleep, because he almost always had to wake up at an obscene hour of the morning. And I really struggled with that in our early years of marriage. I never wanted him to go to sleep. I wanted him to want to hang out with me. I wanted him to value time spent with me rather than time sleeping, and it almost always got us in a gigantic fight. And looking back on it now, that is probably one of the main things that I regret in the early years of my marriage, because it just was so selfish. I was showing him that what I wanted is more important than his happiness or his comfortability or his sanity. That poor man would be up all night and then have to wake up early, and my husband was a truck driver. He would just drive for hours and hours and hours. So I've apologized to him time and time again, because I just hate that I did that to him. A lot of the times the fights would start because he would fall asleep while I was talking to him, which is super frustrating, obviously. I think everybody would understand that, but if I had finished the conversation and just let him go to sleep, then I could have gone to sleep, and then everybody would not be happy, but because he was leaving, he had to leave regardless. He had to leave, no matter if I was mad or not. So, do I want to spend my last night with him mad and making him mad? Or do I want to spend my last night with him kind of melancholy, bummed that he's leaving, but not in a fight? So that was one thing that always really stressed us out, hurt him in many ways. And I guess this is hard to admit, but a big part of it was that when we were overseas and he was active duty and he was leaving all the time, I didn't have a job. I could sleep in as late as I wanted to. I would take care of my house. I would take care of my dogs. I could do that at any hour of the day. So I didn't have any obligations. I was doing YouTube at the time, but I didn't have any actual responsibilities, obligations. Obviously my dog and stuff, but again, I could sleep in to any hour of the day. So Cameron would be so frustrated, like, I have to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning. I don't have a choice. You do. You can do the dishes anytime. And that's probably my main regret from our first year of marriage, is that I spent way too much time putting my wants over his needs. Kind of piggybacking off that, another thing I would say is really important in a marriage, especially young people marriage, is find something that's just yours. For me, it was YouTube and beauty and things like that, because before I had that, my everything relied on him, his schedule, his mood, everything, because he had his own stuff to do. He had to go to work. He was providing for me and my dog. He, spent all day long with people. I spent all day long in our apartment with the dog. So I relied on him for everything. My human-to-human contact, my happiness, my day-to-day life, like what I did throughout the day, my human-to-human contact. He was really the only human I had any contact with. So what I would say is really important is that your spouse is not responsible for your happiness, and what's really gonna help not put so much pressure on your spouse is to find something that's just yours. Your own friends, your own hobby, things like that. For me, it was YouTube. I did make an amazing friend, Harley, overseas, so I was able to spend a lot of time with her, especially when Cameron was out of town. That would really help. But your spouse, aka another human being, cannot be your everything. That's way too much pressure to put on another human being, and it's totally unfair, and no human on earth can fill that void. For me, that void is filled by Christ, but Christ is not a human being. So he can fill that void. but another human being just cannot. And the earlier and as soon as I accepted that and respected that, it just lifted a weight off my husband's shoulders, and now we can just spend our time together being silly. And yes, of course, we have adult things to deal with together, but we only have so much time together, and we don't even know how much time we have together. So I would rather spend it being silly with him and showing him that I love him rather than waiting around for him to show me that he loves me. And the more I show him that I love him, the more he will want to show me that he loves me. So yeah, those are basically all the things that I wish I knew during our first year of marriage. There's a lot of mistakes I made, many, many more. I'm sure there are things he would say that he would do differently. I think everybody does a lot of learning during their first year of marriage. So if this video helped you in any way, shape, or form, please give it a thumbs up. Comment down below anything about marriage or love or questions you have or advice you have. Let's just fill the comments with all things love. But that's everything for this video. I really hope that you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Make sure that you're subscribed so you don't miss any future videos of mine, and I will see you guys next time.
I'm on my own, broken and alone. I feel the rain crashing down all around this empty town. I'm searching for the lost and found, but you don't care, you're unaware.